All right, it is time for the April wrap up, or April plus the first 2 days of May wrap up, because full disclosure, I finished 3 of these books in the first 2 days of May. I guess first 3 because one I did finish today, but regardless, my channel, my rules. We're just going to get into it. I read 9 books in that time period, in those 33 days. And it was about 4,364 pages-ish. A little more than that because there was one DNF that we will talk about, and I read like 200 pages of that DNF. And I did read some of another book that I'm still continuing on with. So lots of reading was done. Lots of good stuff. There's really a lot of good stuff here. There is some like fine stuff as well, but like the standouts they're standing out. I got very excited about a lot of things, which is what I went into April wanting. Like, if you remember my April TBR, I was like, I'm so excited for so many things, so many potential new favorite series, and yes, lots of fun was had. If you're new to my wrap-up, I just put things into random categories. There will be timestamps and any relevant videos down below, and we're going to get into it, starting with books that center mothers. I DNF'd one and finished another, so we'll start with the DNF. This was Book Eaters. There's nothing wrong with this book. I DNF'd it purely because I was not engaged, and I think that's very personal. This is a very dark work. This is, I believe it's contemporary, takes place in England, and we have this society of book eaters. They're kind of like book vampire adjacent type creatures. There are creatures who eat books and can get the knowledge from the books, and then there are people who eat minds and get the memories from the minds, and there are very few women, so this is a very patriarchal, dark, abusive society to their women, and we follow a character who is running away from the society with her son, who is a mind eater, which is a negative thing, and it's about their survival and kind of her plan that we kind of don't know. And it has a flashback to her past growing up, and it has the present day timeline where they're running away and trying to get the drugs that her son needs but also survive. That's basically the tone and general plot of it. It's really plot driven to me, and I think it's very much like, if you want to focus on this thought experiment, because there is definitely a lot of like connections to real life with this fantastical society, I think it's good. For me, I think there was an intentional distancing done with the main character, and I even heard it in an author interview. And I think that works really well for a lot of people. I think it's a realistic portrayal of this character. It typically doesn't work as well for me in books. It's just who I am. There were very few character connections that I got to sink into in this book, and character development for our main character, it wasn't really a character study. She always develops in moments off page. So we'll have a moment with her, we see her handle this moment, time happens off page, and then she's processed all of this off page, and she's slightly different on page. In the present timeline, she doesn't really change much at all. She's very reactionary, which makes sense because the present day timeline is like an action movie. Lots of things are happening. There's not a lot of time to process. So I'm not like really faulting the novel. I don't think the novel did anything wrong, other than I just wasn't connecting to anything strong enough to keep going that last 100 pages. I made it 2/3 of the way through the book. But I do think it looks into a lot of interesting themes around motherhood, especially because this son she has isn't her first child. And she has a very special relationship with her first kid and things that she had to sacrifice. There's a lot of good theming in here. We don't get a lot of mothers in fantasy. Like, I feel like it's a big standout when it does happen. So it's a good book. It just wasn't really for my taste, so I don't want to steer you away from it. The other one is School for Good Mothers, which is lightly sci-fi. This is definitely more your general literary fiction part of the bookstore. I mean, it has a sci-fi element, but like, it's kind of like a sci-fi, like 1984 is a sci-fi. I don't know. It's definitely pulling from that, because this is your near future dystopian, where it comes with all the faults of a dystopian, where if you look at the world building too hard, it's not going to work. The world building will crack, so you're not here for that, right? You're here more for the anxiety of the dystopian novel, which I think this delivers. This is a third person present, I think? Yeah, I believe so. And you're really close to this, I found, unlikable protagonist, but I think she's just a very flawed human, and I just think the ways that she was flawed I had very little patience for, but like, just know that. And it's in a world where we are really cracking down on parents and how they parent, what is the right way to be a parent, and if you are the wrong type of parent, typically not white or well off, you have your children taken away from you and are forced to go to this school. And our main character basically left her 2-year-old home alone for a couple hours one day, got caught, and now has to go to this school. And also our main character just has a lot of issues. I really liked how this story highlighted how self-centered parenting can be, but also equally showing how systems don't always really care about children as much as we think they do. Like, the person I cared about the most was Harriet, who was the daughter. We don't get her on page. I kind of wish she was more of the focus, but the focus is the mother. We follow the mother the entire time. And we follow her through the school, which the pacing gets a little weird in there because it gets a little repetitive, I think. Like, we get it, this school sucks, everyone's set up to fail, because that's the whole point. There was no succeeding, there was never going to be success. If you have ever existed in the world and had to deal with any of these types of systems, you know that the system does not approach you thinking that you can recover or become better. I think a lot of people think this is an unrealistic book. And yes, there are some sci-fi components that I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, again, the world building part. But the idea of government systems doing what they did, this separation, this harsh separation, yeah, that happens, has been happening, will continue to happen. We do it all the time, and I think it comes from a good place most of the time, like the origins of protecting children. But we sometimes forget, like, humanity, and it was really hard to read from that perspective. Like, very few books trigger me, give me anxiety. The first 50 to 100 pages of this, I was texting Tammy and I was like, when do we get to the school? Because I need to get to the school. We all know she's not going to get to keep the kid, and this is anxiety inducing because, as someone who had to go through this whole legal process and her father got deported, like, it was not a fun time to be a kid, okay? It was not fun. And that was really anxiety inducing. So if you have similar stuff, just know, I mean, it captures that, and it captures the unfairness of it, I think. Like, they're trying to do justice, but it comes across as very unfair for the majority of the novel. But once you're in the school, I think you get that sci-fi distance of things, because the school is kind of like, what is this place? And a lot of the theming's on the nose. If you want subtle theming, that's not this book. Nope. But it's quick. It's a 300-page read. It's heavy. It's hard. But you know, I read in a couple days, and it was engaging to me. Like, it was one of those things where even when I was anxious, I couldn't look away, which is kind of what I want when I'm reading a dystopian. Like, that's kind of the assignment. So, good on it. Moving on to the next section is just what I want to call okay sci-fi. Yeah, I feel very okay about both of these books, and they're both sci-fi. The first one's a collection, Universal Love. This is by a short story author that Evie and I read last year. Children of the New World, I believe, is his first collection. And this is more recent one. I can't remember what year it was published. I believe it was before 2020. And it's good. It's okay. I think its biggest thing is he is very good at writing engaging, tight stories, but not necessarily very good at writing about ideas that feel very unique or developed or below surface level. So on one hand, it's really easy for me to sit down and read one of his stories. It's compulsively readable, which is important. That is actually a really important thing for me in my reading experiences. But having read hundreds of short stories, especially in the sci-fi space, having read a whole other collection of his short stories, I don't even think he was deviating from his own style enough, or his own world building. Or when he did do some world building, I felt it was only okay. And that's where I'm at. It was okay. Like, this was okay. If you are looking to dip your toes into sci-fi short story collections, he wouldn't be my first go-to recommendation, but in terms of, like, readability, engaging you, especially if you aren't used to sci-fi short stories, you might find some really fun ideas in here. I think, personally, I've read ideas like this explored in more engaging ways for me, in more in-depth ways. They're just not necessarily my cup of tea. Like, it's the syndrome of, I read it was easy to consume, I have opinions, and now in like 2 weeks, I won't remember any of these stories. Or like one or two will stick with me. Like, if I think of the last collection, the skiing story is the only one that sticks with me for some reason, which wasn't even my favorite at the time. So just know that. And then the other one is the new Brandon Sanderson novel, and that is this title, which is just way too long. A title over 3 words is too long. Maybe 4. I'll let you have 4 words, maybe. But this was fine. It was completely fine. If you like blockbuster fantasy, sci-fi, it's more sci-fi than fantasy, kind of like whatever Blake Crouch and Andy Weir do, I think you're gonna have fun with this, but it's just fine. I thought Michael Kramer actually did a pretty good job narrating it. I do think this solidifies for me, because this is his first adult work with first-person point of view that I've read, I think. Maybe Legion was first person, and I liked Legion, but Legion was novellas, so it didn't, like, overstay its welcome. But when Sanderson writes in first person, he likes to give his characters this, like, internal monologue kind of repetitive attribute. And maybe that's a thing that Sanderson relates to. I don't know. My brain, I don't think, does this. And it doesn't usually get done in other people's first-person stories. And maybe that's unrealistic. Maybe what Sanderson's doing should be done more often. I don't know. It annoys me. He does it with David in Reckoners. He does it with Spencer in Skyward. And in here, I can't even remember this guy's name. It's his name like John, Jake. I don't remember his name. It's a very generic name that I have forgotten. But he has a thing that he does in his brain constantly. And there was minor payoff to it, I think, in terms of character growth. But also, I'm just like, this is too repetitive. And that is like a critique of Sanderson. He's generally a repetitive writer, but when he's repetitive like this, it annoys me so much. Like, so much. I also thought for Sanderson, the character interactions just weren't as touching to me as I am used to. I thought the world building was fine, and like the ideas behind it. I liked that Kate Redding read the guidebook. I thought that was fun. In terms of multidimensional stuff, it was good. I've read way worse. Like, so it's fine. It's a completely fine book. That's where I'm at. And now getting into more stuff that was really good. So, like, I think we've gotten through all of my, like, that was only, you know, okay, fine, nothing that'll stick with me. So next section is space opera, because I read a lot of space opera this month. First, we'll talk about my reread, which was Morningstar. The live show was on my channel. If you want to watch it, you can still, I believe, yes, until we have the Iron Gold live show, you can enter to win some mugs and pins. You can look at Leanna's community posts to see what those are, but you comment on that video, you are entered into the giveaway. It is international. We had a really fun time talking about this book. I do think that, so it's funny. On a first read, I don't think you notice that Pierce Brown's breaks the first person point of view rule. I really don't. Like, I didn't notice the first time. On reread, when you know what's happening, you're like, oh, this is broken. You broke it. Like, you broke it. It's still really cool, but he breaks it. So if you like things to not be as fun and be more accurate, yeah, no. Because, we're in Darrow's head, and Darrow's, like, method acting at some points. It's like, Darrow, why are you so scared right now? You know what's happening. Like, it's wild. I do like it. I think, unpopular opinion, Red Rising of this trilogy is my favorite on reread. It's very odd, but I do think that's the one I like most. Although Morningstar has a lot of the elements I like the best of the series, where we have a lot of quiet moments with characters, but a lot of like action-packed, twisty turns. I think it balances both of those things really well, and it actually has me really excited to reread Iron Gold now that I'm like mentally prepared for the project. So we'll see what happens, but it was a really fun live show. Highly recommend you check it out. Next one I just finished yesterday is Velocity Weapon. This is so fun. This is so fun. I'm just so glad I finally read it. I wish I had started reading it at a different time in the month when I wasn't about to go on vacation and not have time to read, so it kind of got broken into two. Me reading it before I was starting to prep to go on a trip, and then me reading it after it. And I read a tiny bit here and there on the trip, but I was like in too excited for trip mode. I was on the trip and focused on like being with my friends, and then like coming home was kind of like stressful, so I was doing whatever like felt good. So it didn't really get like, I don't really like when a book gets broken up that way, but it happened. But it was really fun. It did fall into the classic trap of there are three perspectives, and one of those perspectives was just way less interesting to me than the others. That is like so normal to me in sci-fi and fantasy at this point that I don't even really want to knock a point off or anything for that. It's just like a feature of reading speculative fiction sometimes, especially with multi-POV stories. But there were definitely two storylines that I was like, this is so much more interesting. Why are we pivoting to this other thing that I know will matter later? Like, it doesn't even matter when you know it'll matter later sometimes. But it's really cool. If you, I don't know, like, it has an AI ship. That was really fun for me. It has really cute robots. We've got galactic battles. It has some really fun tech. It has some really nice subtle world building that I'm enjoying. I'm very excited to continue this trilogy. We're going to do a live show with my patrons later this month. I think everyone's had at least a good time. Like, I don't think anyone's had a bad time. Like, not everyone's loved it glowingly, but there have been some moments in the chat where we all just went, what? Like, I did not see that coming. Okay. And I'm not going to say that these are like the twistiest twists in the world. I do think these are twists that maybe if you are looking, you could find. I don't think the twists are like why I like it, but I enjoyed them. I was like, oh, that's fun. Like, it was fun. I just had a lot of fun with it. So I do think that if we didn't need this third perspective, and it was maybe then 100 pages shorter because we didn't need it. I think we do probably need it for future books in the series, but for this book, I don't think it was like essential. It could have been like a perfect book because I would have not had a momentum problem, because it did cause me a momentum problem. I'd be so into it, not, you know, really hyper-focused, and then I'm like, frick, we're on to this chapter. Great. And I would literally just put the book down because I was like, I don't want to read her chapter right now. You know, really petty, but book problems. Really fun though. And then something I'm very excited about, I read one of the first books in the Vorkosigan saga. I read Shards in Honor, and oh my god, I love it so much. I still haven't gotten to the next book in it yet, and I want to so bad, because I am very into Bujold's character work. Like, her character interactions, like, yes, this is why I read books. Give it to me. I had such quick buy-in to the character interactions, and I'm just so excited that there's this long, sprawling series for me to read, and all the books are like fairly reasonable length, and I've been looking for that, like, I don't know, just that classic pulpy space opera thing to just like pick up short books and read and be invested in the characters and the world. And you can feel that this is a unique world, but the inspiration from things like Star Trek, you know, with those sprawling, you know, galactic spaces. I'm really curious about learning more about these different cultures. I thought it really handled these older characters in a really fun way. I love Cordelia. I know she's not a main character per se in Vorkosigan, but I really like her. She really understood the assignment, what to do. That was another thing in Velocity Weapon, where you had like a very capable female character. I really enjoy that. And so Cordelia's great. I really liked the romance. That was really fun. Like, I wouldn't say it's a sci-fi romance. I wouldn't say that. It had some really fascinating commentary on different themes, especially for how short it is and how much time we had for certain topics. I'm just thoroughly impressed and excited to read more. So those are all of the space operas. I'm calling this next section Island Fantasy because, ironically, all the fantasy I read were on islands or archipelagos this month. Two of them I'll talk about kind of together. And this is, I guess this is the Drowning Empires trilogy. Is that the name of it? But I read Bone Shard Daughter and Bone Shard Emperor. I feel like it should just be called the Bone Shard trilogy. I feel like that's easy marketing, but like, I'm not in charge of naming things. But Bone Shard Daughter was a reread. Really fun reread. I liked it more on reread. It became a more solid, super fun 4-star than just like a barely a 4-star, which I think it was like on my first read. Really fun. I don't know, I just enjoy the world building. I definitely was drawn into this book based off the scope and the mysteries of the world. I think the characters are fun. They're not characters you haven't seen before. They're very tropey. I do think the uniqueness comes from more the fact that this magic system can lend itself to some sci-fi horror elements that can be pretty fun. But I do think the sequel, Bone Shard Emperor, is more of your standard fantasy. I do think that if you really loved some of the more genre blendy parts of the first book, it's not as present in the second book. The second book is more of your, we're a multi-point of view fantasy, and now we must bring all of our point of views together. Which, funnily enough, remember how I was talking about Velocity Weapon? Bone Shard Daughter had the same problem where there was a third perspective part of the world where I'm like, why are we here again? Like, why? On my first read. A second read, I knew it was there, so I was patient with it, but yeah, Jovis and Lynn's chapters were way better for me in Bone Shard Daughter on my first read. Bone Shard Emperor, I actually felt pretty engaged no matter where I was. There was a thing in Bone Shard Emperor that I was lukewarm on. I kind of warmed up to. I had to rewire things, though, because I thought one character was like almost a decade older than another character, and then the book was shipping them, and so I had to realize, oh, this character is younger than I thought he was to make it okay. Because otherwise my brain was like it was not happy. It was not doing all right. So I had to recast him in my mind to make it work. So just like, know that, I guess. It's not essential, but it's also not bad. It was jarring. When that happened, I was like, okay, was not expecting that. A little odd. But again, we still have such cool stuff with the world building and how we got here. We got some really interesting answers to questions and more questions. Really excited to see how it happens. I really loved where Lynn got to go in the second book. I do think she got to be a little too passive and reactionary in the first book, and she was definitely having more agency in the second book, which I really appreciated. I do think the reverse happened with Jovis. He became a little more reactionary and had less agency, but like, also Jovis is very go with the flow type of character. Mephi's still adorable. We have more animal companions. Like, I'm excited to read Bone Shard War. It's pretty much my next audiobook once I have time, because I don't think this is going to be like an all-time favorite series or anything, but it's fun. It's exactly what I wanted, which is a fun time. Not a deep time, really cool world and magic to explore, and it's delivering on that, which is what I came to it for. So it understood the assignment, and I really like the audiobook narrators. Like, the all three of them are, like, some of my favorites, which I know is, like, kind of contentious, I think. I think some people don't like one of the narrators as much as I do, but I like all three of them quite a bit. I think one did Strange Beasts of China, one did Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and the other one was in the Chorus of Dragons quintet. So I love all of them. And now, the winner of the month, the best book that I've read in a very long time, my favorite book of the year so far, Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. This book is so freaking good, guys. Oh my gosh. When I picked this book up, I'm like, oh my gosh, reading's the best. I was so happy. What to say about this book that the internet has not already said? Well, the first thing I'll say is Grace of Kings is a very good book. I really liked Grace of Kings. I do think I read Grace of Kings at like a very low point in my life last year, and I cannot tell how much of my reading experience is based off the fact that I was very anxious and depressed, and how much of it is the natural pacing of the work and the lack of character connection. But regardless, Wall of Storms is like whatever Grace of Kings was trying to be, but like perfected. In my opinion, you get a lot more character buy-in, I feel like. It's still a sprawling story. Like, if your issues with Grace of Kings was the span of time, we're still covering like 20 years in one book, approximately. So that doesn't change. We're not narrowing our focus that much. I mean, I guess maybe it's not quite the same timeline as Grace of Kings, but it's still a large timeline for a book. Granted, it's like a 900-page book. I will say that if you were like, I gave Grace of Kings like 3.5 stars, do I really need to read Wall of Storms? Because, you know, you've seen reviewers who are like 3 stars Grace of Kings, 5 stars Wall of Storms. You wonder if that's you. Read the first part. I do think you will understand within those couple hundred pages if Wall of Storms is going to hit you like it hit everyone else, because their first climax of the story in the first part is like phenomenal. It's so good. I had so much fun. I read 200 pages in like 24 hours. That is not me. Oh, it was so good. I love the project of the series. I love the science. We have to say it's fantasy for some reason, because I think that's who it needs to be marketed towards, but it's more like historical sci-fi. Like, I think Ken Liu calls it silk punk, and it's so freaking cool, and his brain is just... He basically is thinking about all the questions I think about all the time, but he's choosing to actually try to answer those questions with a cool narrative and characters and plot, and I love that. It's so cathartic to me to be like, yes, you smarter person than me, you write that story with all of the thematic ideas I have mulling around in my head, and add in some really cool battle scenes and climactic moments and characters I'm ride or die for. Like, you do that. Because then I don't have to, because I don't have those abilities. And that's what he does. Like, so many times in the buddy read that I had with Brittany, Emma, and Evie, I'd be like, oh, this is so cool, and I wonder what he's going to do with this, because blah, blah, blah. And then, like, that exact sentence I'd say would be in the book later on, and I'm like, Ken, we're on the same wavelength. We're right there. So it's a case of, like, theming being, like, so cathartic and, like, on brand for who I am that I just, like, I resonated so hard. Because I'm not going to tell you there's not grandstanding or monologuing or info dumping. That's all here. There's a lot of science for the sake of science. I don't care. I eat that stuff up. He writes it so well. And I really loved all the characters and the messiness of them. It's a good time. I really enjoyed it. I already have the third book, The Veiled Throne. It's on my Kindle. I bought it. And I really want to read it. But I have to read some other things first. But, like, I really want to. It's 1,000 pages. It's 1,000. Like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have, like, 2,000 more pages to read in this world. Also, another thing I will say is, depending on how spoiler sensitive you are, especially with world building spoilers, like if you don't like world building spoilers, do not look at the UK covers, especially for books 3 and 4. I think books 1 and 2 you're safe, but books 3 and 4 world building spoil things, which I don't think is a big deal. But like, there was a moment in this series where he's using like genre things that are outside of the scope of this. Like, I was feeling First Contact with alien vibes at one point in this book, and I'm like, how did you do that? It's not an alien story, but I'm like, that's so good. He's so good at stuff. I love this book. This is why I haven't made a review video on Wall of Storms. It's a sequel in a book. Who's going to click on that video? I have no clue. But also, I am not coherent when I talk about Wall of Storms, because all I just want to do is go like, it's so good. I just really enjoy it a lot. So, really good reading month. Probably my best reading month of the year, if I'm being honest. It feels like it, at least. I don't know what my average rating was. But it feels really good. Like, having my first solid new 5-star in fantasy, amazing. 4.5-star experiences, another new 5-star in sci-fi space with Shards of Honor. Like, really good time. Let me know your highlights of the month. If you want to leave an emoji, leave a storm because of Wall of Storms. And I know we already did that this month, but like, Wall of Storms is the MVP, and that's just what we have to accept here. Otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.